We are streaming live right now, so if you guys are going to talk, just keep it 2 minutes. Okay.
I texted him, I haven't heard back.
I'm going to walk around the rest. We're on live stream right now. Everybody will come up, we're on live stream. You guys talk, bring a laptop. I'll kind of make sure. I'll come out and do it. He's not on yet.
Regarding this ordinance, right here, that can be read tonight.
Yeah, but they have to untable it, because it was tabled, they just gotta untable it and they can read it. real
Right,
quick.
they have to untable it. He's gonna want me to ask what that, or he's gonna want me to say what that is, and that's just that.
Yeah.
That came up.
Ken's email he sent me today. He texted me. Oh. I need Ken's number.
I got Ken's phone number.
I need to call him. We need to call him. I gotta get him on like now.
I got his phone number.
Because I'm not gonna be able to do that. 759.
Oh, there you go.
I've got like 10 million of them for him. The 75098?
Yes.
Jim called earlier. I wonder if I should call him. Did you call him?
I think so. And
Are you?
I sent it to you on your email. Yes, one. Right after we talked this morning. Okay, can you join so I can click you on before we start? Just make sure you stay muted until you're ready. If you're ready to talk, just either text me or something so I can kind of keep an eye on it. All right, thanks. Bye.
Oh my God, I'm hot. Okay, can you hear me? Okay, you're muted, but as long as you can hear me, that's good. I'm missing somebody. President Council? I'm gonna put this on him when we start, and I'm gonna go back and forth. Get in there.
It's standing up.
It's better to stand.
Yes, I was
So I'll
gonna
be, I'll stay
standing.
tonight. Although we need some central air going on right now. I don't trip over cords tonight will be good. Please come up to speak tonight. You need to sign your name or address. Take a pen, and when you're done with it, throw it in the bin right over there. You sit in that corner right over there with you. Yep.
Okay.
You need to make sure that you're in view when you sit down. We're live streaming now. This will be on Facebook. You can tell them, and the city website. Do I need to go down at all?
Ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome.
Wait,
Oh, that's okay.
I hit this recording too.
That's what I thought.
It's too much responsibility. Okay.
We're set? Okay, thank you. Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's public hearing for Monday, October 26, 2020. I'm going to make just a couple of quick comments. First, what I am going to do is thank everybody for their cooperation, wearing masks and practicing social distancing. We are in a situation where we're looking at the numbers and making a determination as to whether or not to have meetings in in person or on Zoom. So we're obviously going to have tonight's meeting in person. So I thank you all very much for your cooperation. I'm going to go ahead and read the ordinance at this time. And then I'm going to make a couple of comments. I'm going to take this off just for a second. Excuse me. Ordinance 220-37. An ordinance enacted pursuant to Chapter 1266 of the Codified Ordinances of Vermillion, rezoning land in Vermillion, Ohio, and containing an area of approximately 8.837 acres from R3, quote, suburban residence district, end quote, to B3, quote, highway commercial district, end quote, land use classification, as favorably recommended by the Vermillion Municipal Planning Commission, excuse me, authorizing the city engineer to amend the official zoning map of the city of Vermillion to conform herewith, as said map has been established by section 1268.02 Codified Ordinances of Vermillion upon the effective date hereof. Before Vermillion, before the council tonight is that's the only question as to whether or not this land should be rezoned from R3 to B3. Okay, there's information coming before us regarding a proposed use of that land. But really at the end of the day, tonight's decision is based upon whether there's enough information or sufficient presentation made for us to make a determination as to whether to change zoning. It is not a decision as to whether or not to accept that particular position on use of that land. Okay, so that is not being decided today. It's simply a matter of whether we should rezone the property. So having said that, we are doing a number of things, going back to my original comment, which relates to social distancing. There are 12 people permitted in our galley at a time. You're all here. There are 3 more people outside. So what we're going to do when you come up to speak, we're going to ask you to write your name legibly, your address. You're going to have 3 minutes to make the comment that you'd like to make. And there will be absolutely no insulting language or anything like that will not be tolerated. Again, I tell you right now, that will not be tolerated. And when you are done, the first 3 people, I'm going to ask you to step outside one at a time and allow the other 3 people to come in and make their comment. Okay, so first we're going to have a presentation, but then when it comes time to the public commentary, that's what we're going to do. So it is a 3-minute limit. We appreciate your cooperation, and I don't believe I have anything else to say. Is there anything from the law director's office that you believe? Okay, thank you. So we are going to go ahead and begin with our presentation. You're here tonight. Go ahead and give the information you'd like to do to council. And this is going to be changed so that when you speak, when it's been kind enough to around, so that when you speak, you come by.
Let me know that you're in this when you stand up. Back?
Yep, a little bit more. Okay. Should I sign in as well?
Yes, please. And your address. If you could print, that would be great.
Okay. My name is Matt Hassel with Adaptive Engineering, the civil engineer retained by the client Todd Summer. So what I kind of want to do is just give a brief breakdown of what's being proposed on the project for the purpose of the rezoning. So currently, the front 250 foot is rezoned or is zoned for this type of project. We are requesting to move that line down another 500 feet so that it would be 750 feet off of the right of way. Would all be the same zoning to allow us to build a combination of different types of storage units. First type of storage units, when would it be beneficial for me to go over here, but then it'd be off the screen? Might be easier to reference.
I will hold this as
Okay.
you talk. And I'm going to come over on this side, try to get, or maybe this will help.
So as part of our, we've gone through a couple different versions of this. We came for kind of preliminary planning. We've come on another for the actual rezoning request to planning commission, and now we're here, kind of a third enhancement of our overall site plan as we've gotten feedback and accommodated that feedback and kind of tweaked our design. So currently we're looking at putting storage condominiums on the east part of the property, followed by your traditional storage units along the northern portion of the property, and then clustered shipping containers right here that would be newly painted at the rear of the property, and then along the western boundary as well would be a row of shipping containers. So we've gotten some feedback that the shipping containers are probably why some people are here tonight. And originally, some of those were shown closer to the road on the western property. So we've taken that feedback into account and kind of shielded them with more of the buildings so that that's not what you're going to see from the roadway. And Mr. Summers has some artist renderings of that proposal as well. But that's kind of the project in a nutshell, is the storage condos, storage units, and the shipping containers being used as kind of portable storage containers. Todd?
In front of you, all the council reps, and thanks for sharing this information with you. You have in front of you artist renderings of what our proposals are. And what I will do is I'm going to share these hard copies with the audience and behind me. So if you would just pass these around, take a look at them. But these, this is an artist that came up with the conceptual idea of trying to put the permanent buildings out front and hide all the containers on the back side of the property, so that it would be minimal exposure in regards from Route 6. And basically the project, all the buildings will be basically dark green, and I know it shows tan, but the computer would not show the green. But if you guys are familiar with Firelands Electric and their building, the color scheme is going to be exactly like what Fireland Electric has. Okay, it's a very earth tone, very complementary color appearance. We're looking at also possibly putting cupolas on top of these buildings so they don't strictly look and stand out like a sore thumb. And then we had somebody North Coast do a landscaping in regards to the area out front to make it very complementary to what Defense Soap has done, in terms of their project. And so we're trying to make it as friendly as possible in terms of appearance. And so besides that, I hope everything that you have in front of you and what has been presented in the past, if there's any questions from you, I'd be more than happy to, answer your questions. Yeah, Mark.
Wait. I thought we were doing council at last. Do you want to wait till? I thought we were doing council.
I can come up,
comments.
yeah, if you don't mind, I'll come up later.
How do you want to do that?
Let's do that. Only part of
You wanted to get the audience first.
Come forward, they have questions, either answer or deepen. Fair enough.
Anybody else with respect to the presentation?
No, that's
Okay.
pretty well it.
So I would ask, we don't have anybody signed up, correct?
No, you just have to come up, raise your hand, you call on me.
Okay, whoever would like to come up first, that's fine. Come on up.
I am, or do I have to represent myself?
You don't have to represent yourself. If your son would like to speak, he's to come up and
he in this building
Yeah.
inside.
Okay, I just don't want to, because you might say it the right way. I don't want to say it the wrong way.
We don't have that problem in our house yet. Come on up.
Just to announce, when you guys, if the three of you step out, you go out, you're able to pull up the live stream on the Facebook page of Vermillion.net, or you can do the YouTube channel on Vermillion.com.
Yes.
Okay, just sign up.
You want me to sign my parents' name to this?
Nope, you as your representative.
Okay. Hi, I'm Attorney Rocky Radiff. My parents, Kathy and Daryl Radiff, live off of Hazelwood. And they had just asked me to come speak on their behalf in regards to some questions dealing with this. I do have some familiarity. I was on the zoning and planning board for Sheffield Lake. I'm also currently on city council for Sheffield Lake. And they had indicated that the storage condos going in were going to be similar to possibly the ones that we have in Sheffield Lake already. But today, obviously, I know that the issue is more to the zoning, and they just have a few questions regarding what they're going to be able to, if this goes in, what's going to be done behind their property. Obviously, when they bought their property, there's very grass, trees, a lot of plantation. So now with these going in, obviously, there's already been some things being cut down. You can start to see, I believe, Liberty and Lake Road from their yard. And their concern is obviously the aesthetic of what's going in there. Buying it, obviously, behind them was residential, so they expected that possibly to be residential. But more specifically to their question would be is that if they do allow this zoning to go forward, I know that there's going to be some sort of buffer zone, whether it be a fence, something like that. Their concern is that if someone else were to buy the property later, they're directly behind their yard on Hazelwood, would be if whoever bought it, if they're going to put a road behind there, or if they could use it for something else. Because once it's rezoned, they don't have to come before a zoning board in order to get the approval of what's going behind. So that was their concern, is that someone might put a road behind there or something else that fits in B3, which was kind of their concern, which seems to be their main concern right now. Obviously, there's aesthetics and things like that, but that might be more suitable for a planning meeting or something of that nature. So I guess their question two is one, that if this is passed, it'll be contingent on them actually building these condos and nothing else being added to it. And two, is if they were to sell the property, would the property revert back to the residential 3? I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, if you don't mind, just because there's 3 people.
We got 3, so you have 3.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, while they're leaving, if the next person would like to come up and speak.
Name's Ed Moore. I live on Hazelwood. And originally the plan was behind my house, it would be like campers and boats and things like that. I've seen the artist rendering, which looks really nice. If it's followed through and they put the, what do you call that on top of it? Cupolas on top of there, it would look much better. But at this point, when I came here tonight, all I could see was big containers that basically look like dumpsters. And that's what I'd have to look out my back window. Now, I do appreciate the fact that you're leaving 50 feet. That's good. Now when the leaves fall, I'll still be able to see what all is back there. And why do you zone something if somebody can just come along and change the zoning? And it's easy to say, go ahead, we'll change the zoning if it's not your backyard, but it is my backyard. I used to always put my window up, my shade up every day to look at the woods, appreciate it. And I've put my shade up twice since all this has taken place. And I still really have actually 50 feet of woods, which is not too bad when the leaves drop. I'll be able to see everything that's out there. I know it's a residential back behind my house. I've seen since he's done all the site preparations, very nice area. I could see putting some homes back there, but do we need another storage facility when one went bankrupt on Route 60? And we already have 2 or more in Vermillion already. That's my only concern. It's like you tear down nature and you put up, in my opinion, dumpsters, but they're going to be nice looking dumpsters. That's all I got to say.
Anybody else would like to come up?
Okay. My name is Greg Sorrento. I live on Sunnyside Road. As what he said, I really don't think the city of Vermillion needs another storage facility right on Liberty Avenue. We have 2 of them basically right next to each other on the north side of the street, one by Carter Lumber and the other one down a little bit. I'd like to see, since they have leveled the land, the trees, we have noticed an overcome of, in our yard, of raccoons, skunks, deer, and we live on the north side of Sunnyside by Roanoke. That development there. There are some people that I know that live on Roanoke that their yards have been, overwhelmed with animals that normally we didn't have as many. Now it seems like we have 2 or 3 times as many as we did since they leveled the woods. And another concern I have are these storage containers. I'm a truck driver. I haul these storage containers. They go on these ships overseas. You don't know what's been in them. I've been at distributors where they've been unloading these containers that have come from Japan, overseas, China, and I've seen spiders and bugs in them that I have never seen before. That it's like anything, you have something sitting around, insects are going to get into it. Well, they load these containers overseas and they sit on the docks for so long, and then they put them on the ships and coming over, however long it takes, and then they'll sit at the ports along the ocean, and then from the ports they'll get shipped inland. So you don't know how long these have been sitting, where they've been sitting. We don't know what kind of condition are in there. Basically, they have wooden floors. The floors could be all rotted out. They say they're going to paint them, and they are eyesores. And eventually, one of the concerns I have is down the road, as this development goes on, will they start using the back of this land to stack these containers for storage, as in like a container yard? Now, I know all of you have been past the old Ford plant. You've seen these containers. You've seen them on the rail cars when you're sitting at a rail crossing. They're not very handsome looking containers. And if you put one of these containers on the ground, if you're going to rent one for storage, there's about a 6. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, thank you very much. I just want to give you my opinion on it. Thank you.
Sebastian.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm Eleanor Rostes, and I'm representing MSR Capital Management that owns the office building to the west of this horrendous project that he is attempting. First of all, I've heard rumors that he never received or applied for the proper permits to do what he did to that land. If that is the case, what will make him do the proper things when of what he's promising? That's the first question. Second, you say that it's going to be friendly. Well, it wasn't friendly to the American eagle that lost its home. It wasn't friendly to the red-headed woodpecker family that I used to see come over all the time. Now that I know we're not here to worry about the poor animals, but we are here to worry about what's going to happen to that land. Now, the way you have that set up for the storage, the containers, it's going to totally block my east side view from my office building. That is going to deteriorate, reduce the value of my rentals. I have an architect in there that put in a beautiful window facing the east so that he could watch the beautiful animals that went through. I'm not going to be able to rent that office. Who wants this unit sitting in front of it? You came to me and you said you were going to touch anything for 10 feet from my property line. You came in and totally, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. He came in and totally, he cut down 2 of my trees. He pulled out all the bushes. And he promised he wasn't going to touch anything on my property. Now, I would love, if this does go through, if you could give 50 feet to the people on Hazelwood, why can't you give us at least 50 feet? I know you've given, behind me is a residential home. You're giving 50 feet to him. And at least that's what Gino told me. And it's going to go down and then it's going to come in and go right against my property line. That is also a very big wetland. That used to be a stream. Oh, okay. That's, there's a pond there at all times. And if, I don't know what he's going to do if he is going to fill in that, he tried to destroy that pond, it came back. And it's got spring peepers in there. It used to. I don't know. He probably killed them all with that big rotary thing. But yes. Okay. But anyway.
Whatever your concerns are, wildlife, our state has a whole division of wildlife to protect nature. So whatever your concerns are, totally valid. So yes, we are here. Issues, and that is included, so thank you. Would anybody else like to come up? Yes.
Are you in the picture?
I am, best of my knowledge.
Okay.
Okay. City Council Administration, thank you for having us. First, my name is Robert Green from Edison Estates. I am a former executive in the self-storage industry, so I have some experience. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I'm urging you to vote against the zoning change. Simply because this is not the kind of revenue our city's looking for, okay?
simply because there's no employees. And that's a big issue, especially when you have this type of container storage unit. It's low cost. And when it's low cost, that means you have low cost renters. And it brings in that kind of client, which is not what we want in our city, I don't believe. The other concern that I have from what I saw and what I've read and what I know about is security. And without full fencing, high definition lighting and cameras, I will absolutely assure you that you'll have a security issue and you may need to hire more police officers because that's what you're going to attract with this kind of facility. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill McCord. I live on Menlo Park Lane in Edison Estates. And I just want to make it clear that I'm against the passage of this proposal tonight of 2020-37. I'm really disappointed in the Planning Commission's work on this project. I think for them to advance this project without a more defined definition of the details, for example, are these buildings going to be sited on foundations or just going to be sitting on the ground? The proposal that we saw from the minutes of the Planning Commission indicated there were going to be shipping containers as the primary building component in this project. And yet the photographs that we've seen tonight include buildings with gabled roofs on them, totally different. Point being here is, I don't believe the Planning Commission did their work and due diligence before they advanced this. In addition to that, the Planning Commission received substantial negative input from the residents that live nearby and adjacent to the project, as well as other concerned citizens in the city. And so for those reasons, I'm urging council to take this ordinance up tonight, not to delay it, vote against it, get it over with. If the owner of the property wants to come back with another proposal that's more clearly defined, I think that would be fine. Thank you.
Whoever would like to come back.
I'm Sue Posey and I live on Shady Lake Drive, which is just off Sunnyside, close to where the farm market and all those things are. I've lived in my home for over 51 years. And I'm really disappointed to think that you would put or consider to put something of the sort that this is. The storage units that are next to Carter Lumber, they don't look bad. I wouldn't want them if I'm there either. But the fact that you consider what you are to putting in there, I'm very disappointed in Vermillion. I mean, I've been here, as I said, a long time. People don't like the cars that are in the storage lot by the Ford plant. As they drive into town, they're all upset about that. What about driving down the road a bit further and seeing a bunch of storage containers that people have to look out the back of their house at? And what it's doing to the property value of those houses. I would be more than a little upset if I lived there. I would hope that we have better plans for the city and put something of that sort there. If it has, as I understand, actually is zoned residential, why can't we have something nicer than storage containers along Liberty Avenue? That's all I have to say. You're making a big mistake.
Good evening. I'm Homer S. Taft. I reside at 3972 Edgewater Drive near this site. I am an attorney at law admitted in Ohio and a real estate attorney and a real estate professional since I was licensed 54 years ago when I worked for my dad's company. I still manage real estate. I don't know if 3 minutes is going to do it, so I'm going to summarize and try and do as much as I can and talk quickly. But number one, I regret that I have to put on record that I'm not sure this actually qualifies, despite the best efforts of counsel, as a proper public hearing, because a public hearing requires that every person be able to see and hear everything that everybody else says or has said, and that is not happening and can't happen under these circumstances. I oppose the development, and I oppose it for several reasons. First of all, because of the fact that it is completely, this area is zoned for residents, has been zoned for a long time for residents, is completely surrounded by residents, this entire 300-foot area. And all of the people over all of the years have relied upon the determination of this council that it was residential. Secondly, the question of the improvement of the area, which is the purpose of zoning, is to maintain value or to improve value, versus the devaluation of the value of the entire area, which this would be. It's kind of an issue of beautification versus uglification. Further, I believe that there is a higher and best use that I would hope we do, but this use is not actually a permitted use in a residential zone. It is not in any, or excuse me, in a business zone. In any B zone, storage is not a listed permitted use. The only one that comes close is B4 that requires great setbacks and special conditions. It is a permitted use in industrial zones, which are way away from this. And regrettably, I have to say, I'm afraid there's a wetlands issue. Federal law requires, before you clear, before you fill, before you do anything, that you're supposed to, if there's wetlands, delineate. There have been references to the fact that there are wetlands on this property. If there's more than a half acre of wetlands on the entire parcel, not this portion, the entire parcel, there's an obligation to go to the United States Army Corps of Engineers first. And I am indeed involved in a case involving that. So I have some familiarity with that. Let me go back then and talk about Reliance. All the folks that build homes, all the folks that have bought those homes over the years have relied on the fact that this council has said that this is residential land. Now it's coming in not only for a business purpose, but for a business purpose that isn't even in the permitted uses. It would be a conditional use. There's been reliance by those people on your word, and you should keep it. In terms of improvement, all right. Well, I will mention, I think that there is a better residential uses of this entire land. And I do think that there is, as I said, a federal issue involved. There are other issues that unfortunately I'm not going to be able to have time to tell you. Thank you.
Just so the record reflects, way back in March or April, I went an in-depth review in the Secretary of State when this pandemic started.
there was quite a bit of information that came from that office in Columbus regarding public hearings and public matters, and certain that one could call them exceptions or just changes to deal with the pandemic. So it's my own personal belief that I'm operating in good faith by conducting the hearing in this manner, doing everything we can. I think Mr. Taft would be correct if we were outside of those recommendations from the Secretary of State. But as far as the hearing is going, it is my belief that I'm doing so in good faith and making every effort for all voices to be heard in it so the community can see. But certainly there can be respectful disagreement as happens a lot. The second thing, there will be an opportunity during our council meeting. This matter will be or could be coming up for a vote tonight, and there will be another opportunity for people to speak, and that under charter is a 5-minute limitation. So if you would like to stay and there's some more things you would like to talk about, not being repetitive, we would ask you is that you are welcome to stay for that council meeting, and under our charter, you would have the opportunity to address council at that time. So with that, we will go to the next speaker, whoever would like to speak.
I am. Hi. What?
Your pen in the basket.
I'm sorry. Nervous. My name is Meg Kuhn. I live on Hazelwood Drive. I moved in 18 years ago under the premise that maybe one day there would maybe be houses behind me, but not not commercial, and certainly not these ugly, what's proposed. Also, he's the person that owns the property has not been a good steward to Vermillion. He's gone through taking out wood 10 years ago. He's never got work permits. I don't know about any environmental study ever done. And the work permits, it's just not now, it's 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we did have a bald eagle there. We have egrets, bats, and numerous other that are supposed to be protected. Living where I do, we have, there's ponds, lots and lots of ponds. So much so that in the spring, my yard, my neighbor's yard, completely flood. So when you go in with this project and you put down pavement or anything, where's that water gonna go? It's gonna go into my house and it's gonna be inhabitable. What are you gonna do to protect me as a resident? Probably nothing, because you just care about the few $1,000s that you might get from taxes from him. He's not hiring anybody to work there, so it's not, you're not getting extra employment. So I'm just very, very, very upset. And when the leaves fall, what am I going to look at? I'm going to look at ran down boats and RVs that people will forget that they put there, because where I live is really, really bad. It's the road sits like this. We shot a transit. So we live at the lowest part of the road. So all the water from there comes in the back, and on the front of the street, it comes up over the open ditch and comes in the front. So now we'll be surrounded completely by lots and lots of water. And I, you know, for a couple $1,000, you're gonna let them ruin this beautiful piece of property. Instead of putting houses, maybe, you know, where houses, I know the new person that goes to live there will take care of that property. But let's say something happens in 20 years, is he gonna repaint it? No, I highly doubt it. It's gonna be ran down. And where I live at the cross street, where I live is where it's gonna be proposed for the RVs and the storage. So what happens when people forget that they
it's there and it all rusts out and all that oil and all that stuff goes into the ground. It's gonna be in my backyard because of all the water and the flooding. So I beg you, please do not rezone this, please. You're live.
Hey, live wire. Jerry Schrank, 737 Virginia Drive. Been a resident here for 27 years or so, 28 years. Served on the Board of Zoning Appeals for about 10 years, just till last like a year, maybe a year and a half ago. And we already have a couple of storage units along here. And I know there's some plans with the car thing east of town there, but it's just a plan. It hopefully comes to fruition because it'd be a wonderful addition to the city here. Just a little bit further west of there on the south side, there's a big barn that came to us years ago on BZA. And the guy has a bunch of storage cars back there that we allowed him to put some other stuff back there, which was probably a mistake. But anyhow, and we already have the other ones there. I don't know what the vacancy rate is on this storage units, and I don't see how we need more. There's got to be another way to raise revenue and bring businesses to town besides just that there. And like everybody said about the devaluation of neighborhoods and all that stuff, it's just there's got to be a better way, and hopefully we come up with a plan to make this city better. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brian Winningham, live on Hazelwood. Couple of things. First of all, we're totally against this. We urge you to vote this down. Me and my wife have been there a little over a year and a half. A question I have to you, to the council today is, have you guys done a fair market analysis report? Look at a different community, see when they put these type of storage facilities behind these houses, and what did it do to the property value of your current residents? I did a little research myself, and if I'm correct, you could be looking at a lot of people losing the value of their home, which means you're going to see a lot of people selling their homes. If the gentleman was correct about the security aspect, you're bringing crime in and you're running out for 1 million people. That cannot be the way that the council votes on this. That's what I have to say for this evening.
Appreciate that.
Hi there, Drew Worley. This really isn't going to affect me at all. I'm never going to be on that side of town. A lot of people talk about the storage units themselves and all that. That's what this is about. It's about zoning, correct? It's all that matters. This could be totally thrown out and another business could come in, this, that, the other. My issue is all those houses, all those residents have lived there forever. With that being a residential zone, we want to switch this to B3. I looked briefly and saw, I don't see how storage units are considered under B3, but that's not what I'm here for that. But also, I'd reiterate what Homer said about this not constituting a public hearing. But I think the council should vote no. I don't think you would like a huge portion of land next to your residence being switched to a B3 zone. Again, it has nothing to do with the storage units, what it is, because that's not what this is about. This is about zoning. I urge you guys to vote no on this.
And while he's coming up, I'm gonna council questions, and I know you're taking notes. And I want to ask you to respond to also have some names to read off. For the record.
Thank you. I think you all received my memo, so I'm not going to regurgitate all that. I'm just going to make a couple of short points here. And as I did state in the memo you read, I contacted a couple of other cities nearby. And I talked to the zoning managers, and they obviously couldn't make a specific position, but they made it crystal clear to me, zoning is made to protect the surrounding neighbors or businesses. And that's pretty much all I had to hear from those two sources. And I don't live in that neighborhood, but I've now driven through it. I've driven every street, around there. And I assume some of the people in this room live in that area. And this may be a replay of what several other people have said before it was my turn to come up. I feel sorry for those people if you're going to allow this to happen. Whoever lives in that area, they certainly didn't expect this to happen, because anything having to do with this kind of business proposal, it's the closest thing to a junkyard. And I've heard a lot of professional comments here tonight, what people can do and usually do when they, have this kind of business. We've seen too many. And I've also learned tonight, the containers may not even be new. And I'm very familiar with containers, considering my career. So that was quite a disappointment to hear. They may not be new. And I don't know if that's true. So I feel sorry for all the residents, if there are some still here, that their immediate neighborhood is going to change, not in a positive direction. The only other point I want to mention is we've lived here 19 years. We really enjoyed it. We like the direction that Vermilion's going in. It's always a very pleasant experience when I have business associates, friends, relatives come here. And every time they come here, whoever it is, it's even more positive because everybody is doing so many wonderful things in our community. Residents, businesses, several organizations. And what this property owner is proposing to do is basically totally ignore making this town even nicer. Because if you're coming in on the busiest, I assume it's the busiest road into Vermilion, this is not going to be a positive initial impression. And I'm very, very disappointed in the owner actually even thinking of putting this kind of business on such a visible area. I appreciate your time, and I hope something else comes of this property. Thank you very much.
Just ask council to kind of formulate any questions you may or may not have. I'm going to read a list so that everybody knows that we received communications from a number of people. I'm going to name the individual or individuals if they wrote together and put down their position, and let everybody know that I have all of these. Council has seen them and reviewed them, and they are going to be made part of the permanent record, but I'm not going to read each one of them. So I want everybody to know that. So Sandra Needing provided offered thoughts and suggestions. Meg Kuhn is opposed. Dennis and Elaine Carlin are opposed. Mark Riddle is in favor. Marcia and Jim Kingsley are opposed. Krista and Steve Turnbull are opposed. Margaret and Chuck Worcester are opposed. Cliff German is in favor. Bill McCourt is opposed. Robert Green is opposed. Dick Minnick is opposed. Brad Schultz is in favor. Ingmar and Paula Savala are opposed. Betsy Wakefield is opposed. Dan Lakey from the Salty Critter is in favor. Gino Camarada is opposed. Justin Miller from Abraham Miller Excavating is in favor. Janet Ford is opposed. Guy Seiko from Defense Soap is in favor. Jim Matchkoff is opposed. Marcy McKay is opposed. Vito Camarada is opposed. Barbara Stazek is opposed, and Dwayne and Maureen Byrne are opposed. So as I stated, that will all be a matter of our permanent record. I want to share two more bits of information with respect to the substantive information that we're getting today regarding a proposal of a site plan. Approval of that goes to the Vermillion Planning Commission, as I said before, and I'm just kind of clarifying the process. We are here just deciding a matter of zoning. And so that being said, I am going to give you the opportunity in just a moment, but I'm going to ask council if they have questions based on the information today or the citizens' complaints. So open it up to council for any questions. Yeah. why don't we do that?
Do you have anything, Emily? Do you have anything, Beth?
I have a couple curiosities, I guess, more than anything else. The wetlands, of course, is one that I'd like, I think you're gonna answer though, that whether you've looked into that. But on all your drawings, you're leaving like a 233-foot space behind the residence on Hazelwood in addition to the 50-foot that you're giving them. What is that 233 feet that is not, and there's also space behind where you're saying outdoor storage that isn't accounted for in any way. What's happening to those? I mean, that. Okay.
Yeah, if you could just hold that question.
Okay.
Because that'll help in this issue. Do you have any
Okay,
other
that's it.
questions? I don't.
Brian, do you have any?
Yeah, I do have one. I just want some clarification. Mr. Camarada's property on your map currently states it is listed as commercial B3, when in fact that is wrong. I believe it's considered R3. I just want to make sure we clarify that for the record. I know Mr. Camarada had provided some information, and Mr. Howard and Mr. Valerius has also provided me information that is incorrect on your map, that in fact that Mr. Camarada's property is zoned residential, not business.
We were just, I guess, there would still be the 25-foot setback.
If you could just hold that.
Sorry.
I appreciate your patience. I'm just going to try to get all the questions from council. So. And I'll remind you if you don't remember, because I have it written down. Do you have any more?
Monica, do you have anything?
I do not, thank you.
Frank?
Oh, I forgot you're hiding back.
I got to make sure we got.
I know, I'm
know.
just trying to
Okay.
follow everybody.
So what I'm going to do is ask you then to respond, kind of however you like, but I know that there's been a lot brought to you, responses to.
You gonna stay there or come up here?
No, I don't want to go over to the map because there's so much misconception in terms of.
Watch your step.
I
I know, watch your step. I'm trying to.
You know, I've lived in this community for well over 35 years, okay? I take offense to you, Ingemar, about a junkyard, because that is not the way I was brought up. Our family created the mobile home community across from the Midway Mall in Elyria, Ohio. A 5-star resort, and up until 2 years ago, we sold it, and it was the finest community in the northern part of the United States. And through that was part of my leadership to keep that community looking as professional and clean as possible. You guys perceive me as being the bad guy here, okay? What you have to hear it from me in terms of what we plan on doing truthfully to this property. It's not going to be a junkyard. The containers are brand new that'll be coming out of Europe or China. We don't know. They have a life expectancy of 50 years. You think I want to go ahead and bring in stuff that looks like junk? Everything is brand new on this project. The whole complex will be done in concrete. There'll be a retention pond to take care of all the water, stormwater that you have asked about the water. On this property over here, I'm only looking to do 8 acres. I've got 35 acres in here. Now, I'm talking to Jim Mesnick from Loring Metro Parks. We're planning on donating all this land in the back here for no future development. Back here, Loring Metro Parks owns this property down here. We're looking to give them 20 acres. You guys didn't know that, did you? And in turn, this 50-foot barrier was primarily, hopefully, so that the Metro Parks might be able to put a trail that goes back into this property that meets up to the land back in here. And in turn of, my conception is a first-class development, okay? And it might not, wet your whistle just because they're, storage units, but there is a market. I didn't do this just for the sake of doing it. We did a market survey. There, 2 units that you're talking about, they're at capacity. There is a need for storage facilities in the city of Vermillion. Now, let me tell you about the property. It's been in our family for over 45 years. I had it on the market for well over 20 years with Mike Petrogrin. Got one offer to buy it. I took it to the auction 2 years ago. Told this attorney here, if he wants to buy the land from me, go ahead and buy it. I'll sell it to him. Not one offer at the by auctioning it off. So what am I supposed to do for 40? We have this property. So my brother and I decided, let's go ahead and store it in the 8 acres that we're looking at. That's how the idea came about. Now, you're talking about the land just to the east of the property. Why was it cleared out? Nothing for development. It was strictly for visualization, visibility. And in turn, this, like I said, the 50-foot buffer is on the west side of the property. There's a 25-foot buffer on the east side, or excuse me, on the west side here, and 50-foot on the east side. Okay. And our family, since we were in the mobile home business, we were thinking about putting a modular home. We did a study. Okay. City of Vermillion cannot afford type of modular homes for this, property approximately 25 years ago. So consequently, we just basically sat on it. I can't tell you about what the animals are going to do in their property. Okay. To me, they're going to do what they have to do. And I can't basically, tell you guys, what a raccoon or deer or whatever is going to be doing. But I guarantee you that if I keep this all natural the way it is, they will have a place to go ahead and reside. This area right here is a retention pond, okay? Where all the water on this development will be coming and flowing into the retention pond into the storm sewer system. That will be, it's being engineered by Matt here, okay? Somebody said about the timber of the property. Yeah, that was 12 to 13 years ago. And we had Amish come in and basically harvest the trees that needed and were mature and went ahead and did do a clearing on that. We are going to have 3 to 5 employees. There's a question that there wasn't going to be anybody, and that's not the case. So besides that, I mean, you got the whole story in terms of how we came up with our idea. And I'm hoping that council will agree with me that, if we donated this property here to the Metro Parks, it surely will stop any future development, from this portion southward. Did you get your question answered? 230 feet. You're talking about here?
Yes.
Okay. Barb, all we did was clear the land for visibility. Okay, so as you're traveling down Route 6, what you're doing is you're able to see the project, okay? Nothing will, right now, there's nothing planned for doing anything with that property. Nope.
And there's also some land to the south of yours, where you're zoning it B3 that is not assigned to anything.
No. What you see is what we're proposing. Anything else, there's nothing on the drawing board.
So technically, it could be 230 feet as residential, right?
Being back in here, it could, but you still have commercial property in the front of 250 feet. No. Okay. Thank you.
You may, please. Just in response to the R3, B3 zoning on the west side. I must not have the most current map. I have it here in front of me from 2018 that was used as the basis, and that is showing those properties as B3. So I can update it if there's a more current one, but we were still holding a 25-foot side yard setback. If it was a commercial property, we could have used a 15-foot side yard setback, but since it is a residential, further to the south, we just held a nice steady line on there, and we're going to be having a 25-foot setback from that property line. So even though my interpretation was we could have done 15, it's designed at a 25-foot.
You guys did the initial clearing. Did you follow the 25 or did you follow the 15-foot?
We went up closer to it, right?
What we did is we cleaned out, it was so heavy in brush, okay? We cleaned up to the property line, but nothing is, there's going to be a 25-foot buffer from the property line, to our project. What we'll do is we'll probably end up mowing it, okay? But there will be, at least they will have their vegetation on their side of the property, but on our side, we cleaned up to the property line.
There will not be any units within there, but Todd made it clear to me that he didn't want the overhangs of stuff over it and that it would be a mowable lawn area.
I don't know if I know that one of the questions was asked about fencing regarding security. Could you speak upon that as far as, is it tag around? I remember that question being asked.
Brian, I went out and looked at 6 different storage facilities, okay? And all of them primarily first-class, storage facilities. Marblehead, they didn't have any fencing, all right? I hate the perception of somebody saying that it's going to be a haven for vandalism and stuff, okay? They don't know that, and I don't know that, okay? I didn't want this to be an institution. I wanted it to be a place that when you went by, it was tastefully done. Yes, am I going to have a fence on the east, south, and well, it's primarily the east and south wall. I really didn't want one in the front. I wanted the retention pond and the vegetation to, nobody will be able to get into it, by an automobile, but they can get into it, by somebody walking around. But how many people truly are walking around on Route 6 across from Germans or Defense? So, there's no sidewalks, per se there. And if we have to put a fence up, I'm not going to argue the point. We will put a fence up, okay? But it wasn't the intention at this time to go ahead and do that.
Questions for the presenters tonight.
Councilman Lucas. There was some comment regarding taking shrubs and trees from other adjacent property and destroying it, just to clarify that that did not happen.
No.
Thank you.
Does administration have anything? No.
I guess, yeah, does the administration have any questions for the presenters tonight? Okay. Seeing nobody move. Okay, thank you very much. All right. So we'll now go to the next item, which is council closing statements and review of proposed zoning. And really, there's certainly be an opportunity for council members to make any public statement about this. I'm only going to say this, that the information that we received and the information from the community is based upon what we know to be an extremely emotional situation, particularly for property owners. People want to do things with property on Liberty, and people purchased homes and have lived for a very long time. And it's very important. We know that, and we appreciate very much you coming to council and conducting yourselves in the way that you have and providing the information. To the presenters, thank you for your preparation and answering our questions and our concerns. All of this is important, and it's not just money, it's livelihoods. People don't buy homes so they can have these things happen, and then people like yourself come in and invest in property and want to make a difference, so that you come prepared, and we appreciate that very much. It's a fairly difficult situation for our citizens, so we thank you all very much for coming. I will open up at this point for comments from council. Of course, we're going to be doing a reading in the next meeting, but if this council would council like to say anything at this point? Okay, thank you. All right, well, that will adjourn this public hearing agenda. Now, what we are going to do is take a quick 5-minute break. And if anybody would like to sign in for a regular council to make a comment about anything, I'm probably going to cut you off if you're just going to repeat what you said during the public meeting. But there are other items up for agenda for council tonight, so we'll take a quick 5-minute break. Thank you.
Pause. Hold on. This is still on.
Our equipment's still on. So.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We're on live record still on here. We're on a break. Ken, did you need to say anything? Just shake your head, yes or no. You're on mute. You will? Wait a minute, you're mute. Unmute yourself, Ken.
Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah, we're still on live feed, so everybody can hear you. Do you need to speak?
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Do you want to speak before or during, under your report, or do you want to speak up and under President and Council's report? When we get into public.
You want me to be present by Zoom at the council meeting, which is fine with me. I'll do that.
All right, I'll have him address you under President and Council's report. Okay,
That's fine. Okay.
make sure you unmute yourself when we get to that point.
Okay.
Go ahead and mute yourself now.
All right.
Are we keeping this configuration? We're on live still.
Are we keeping the seating configuration for meeting or? Yeah.
And go ahead and mute yourself for right now
Okay.
until we're ready, okay?
I probably shouldn't have you go to the meeting because they're going to ask me. But unfortunately, you're already there, right? One thing I was going to say is somebody asked a question if the property discontinued use.
Ken, Ken,
What
mute
is that?
yourself. Ken, mute
You talk-
yourself because you're on live. I can hear you.
I'm talking to Susan.
I know, but I'm going to mute you. Okay, go ahead. You're good.
Ken, can you hear me okay? Ken?
Mute. Can you hear me, Ken?
Nobody's
Okay.
inspecting my storage. It's like they did on South Park.
All right, Steve, you
I've
are.
done it twice and nobody's responded. No. Yeah, we're on. Like, I wish the mayor has a seat. Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Vermillion City Council meeting for Monday, October 26, 2020. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of reflection or silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, Gwen, if you could call the roll.
Brady.
Present.
Luca.
Here.
Abraham. Here.
Here.
Stark. Here. Karen.
Here. We have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 5th and October 19th, 2020 council meetings. Any discussion?
Brady. Abraham. Yes. Luca. Yes.
Yes.
Stark. Yes. Karen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, Ms. Fisher, do we have any correspondence for tonight's regular council meeting?
And no correspondence this evening.
Okay, very well. Under President of Council's report, I am going to turn this over to our law director, Mr. Stumphauser. And I'm going to try to do that. Okay, Mr. Stumphauser, can you hear me okay? If you could unmute, you're muted right now. Yeah, we can't hear you. Go ahead and unmute. You're still muted.
He's still muted.
Just hit mute, Ken.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
All right, I just wanted to make a simple statement that one of the first speakers at the public hearing wanted to know what would happen prospectively if the plans for the property now were to change, would the property revert back to its current zoning? And council, I'm sure is aware, but I wanted to confirm, the answer is no. If you choose to rezone the property would remain R3. I think that's what their zoning request is for. It doesn't revert back to anything. Does everybody understand?
Yeah, so the answer to the citizen's question was there would be no reverting back once the decision's made by council to, if council were to change the zoning of that particular parcel, there would be no reverting. That's your statement,
That's
correct?
correct.
Very well, thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stumphauser. I've been told to tell you to mute again. Go ahead and mute again.
I'm sorry?
You need to mute again. Thank you. Okay, do we have any committee reports? We just met last week, so I don't believe we have any committee reports. Very well, thank you. We'll then go to the Mayor and Safety Director's report. Good evening, Mayor Forthover. Thank you. Mayor has no report, so we'll go to our Service Director, Mr. Valerius. Good evening. Do you have any report tonight?
Catch basins along Liberty Avenue,
also ask that citizens keep an eye out for them and use caution in construction zones, please. And last week at the committee meeting, I discussed the need for a new tractor and roadside mower with council. That issue is on the agenda for first reading tonight. And due to the lead time for the delivery by next spring, the sooner we get the order in, the sooner we can receive it. But I would like to ask council to consider suspending the rules and passing ordinance 2020-47 this evening. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Valerius. Any questions from members? Mr. Valerius? Thank you. We'll go to our finance director's report. Ms. Hendricks.
This evening we have revised appropriations and an amended certificate on the agenda. This is primarily due to the round 3 of the CARES funds that were received since we last had a meeting, as well as the grant that came from the Lorain County Prosecutor's Office for the police department, that those funds had to be encumbered quickly to get those items and also to comply with the grant. So if I could respectfully request that the rules be waived to pass those ordinances this evening, that would be greatly appreciated. In respect to the CARES funding, we are approaching the $750,000 threshold for federal funding with the 720 with the CARES. So I'm working with our auditors at this point to make sure that we don't miss any miscellaneous federally sourced funds that come from ODOT and things like that, to make sure for 2020 we are going to comply with that single audit if necessary. Also, in a presentation by the Auditor of State Favor today regarding some of the provisions for expending CARES funds, they are recommending at this point that potentially legislation be passed by council, that they are aware of what those funds are and were, and we can talk about that more in the future. I'll put that report together. Our financial statements, our GAAP financial statements for 2019 were released by our GAAP preparers last week, and I have sent a copy of that to the Photojournal for publication of the public notices required, not only for the city, but for the Port Authority, that will be in the October 29th issue of the Photojournal. And those items are available for review by members of the public upon request. Bureau of Workers' Compensation, we received the amount for that second rebate is going to be just under $75,000. Those funds will go back into the respective accounts from which they were paid by proportion to those salaries. And technically, it's really almost an advance this year because they've announced that they will not then do a rebate in 2021. So while we're appreciative, it could affect our 2021 revenue as well. The payroll clearance fund that is on the agenda for first reading this evening is merely an accounting mechanism that will track the withholdings from our employees as well as the city's share of various deductions and benefits, so that we can track them as we cross different accounting periods and be sure that they're clearly designated as liabilities. So it's merely an accounting tool that we would like to implement for 2021. And that would conclude my report.
So specifically, you're requesting an ordinance 2020-40 be done tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Any other ordinances? I didn't think you had any other that needed. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Hendricks. All right, we'll go to the city engineer's report. Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Council President. Just a quick update. Hybrid Road reconstruction was paved last week. There are some striping, seeding, and mulching, and some minor cleanup work that will be completed, weather permitting, this week, probably next week. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from council? Yes, Councilman Holmes.
I know there were some issues regarding the intersection of Brownham Station and High Bridge. Were those discussed at a meeting, or was there a meeting?
We, no, based on the work that was done, it made sense to clean up the intersection there, to do something, because it was beat up pretty bad with construction. So it made sense to clean that up and then go a little bit west. The contractor's paying for a portion of that.
Okay. There's concerns. All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Howard. And do we have a law director's report, Mr. Stumphauser or Ms. Anderson?
Nothing on my end, Mr. President.
Very well. All right. So then we'll go to, we do not have response to the audience. And Ms. Fish, do we have open to the audience? I know one person signed in.
Homer Cash.
Very well.
Yeah, I guess this is the I'm back. Good evening, Council President Herron, members of council, Mayor Forthover, members of the administration. I'm still Homer Taft at 5972 Edgewater. Just real quick cleanup, as I understand the dog ordinance and the dog leash ordinance and all that is tabled tonight. Is that correct? Okay. I principally want to speak to the rezoning issue and to some things I was not able to say before. And the most important thing I need to say to you is I talked about the fact that this is not a permitted use. It would have to be a conditional use. And for that matter, all the promises that are made, and I'm record, I'm sure Mr. Summers is a fine member of the community and intends well. But should something happen tomorrow, somebody else could do something different. And that's not in the ordinance. That's not in what you're passing. That would be something before Planning Commission and conditional uses and would be done later and could be changed later. However, the right thing to do is in any business area, especially B3, this council should be amending the zoning code to prohibit storage units, period, full stop. And if you do that, the BZA and the Planning Commission cannot permit one because you've said no. That's the proper thing to do. It's the proper thing to do because Liberty Boulevard is effectively our front door or our front yard, if you prefer that. And what's happening over there is changing a lot. There's a lot of residences between the apartments, between the things that have been built by Castle, the log home. There's other more upscale businesses even that are, going there. Regrettably, I hear a lot about bridge to bridge and we have to come out this way. I don't hear much about all of us beyond the bridge. And I hate to have to say it, but a majority of the folks live east of the river. Majority of the voters live east of the river. Majority of the tax revenues from east of the river. And yet, regrettably, I've had a former government person from, not present, from Vermillion refer to us out there as sketchy town. We're not. We deserve a lot better than we've been getting. And we need to say no more storage units. We want this to be a first-class area. There's plenty of areas in the city where there can be storage units. I would like to say that in addition to that, there was mention about sidewalks. And if there is a new development of any kind, the city requires sidewalks. And that's been discussed for other areas of Liberty. Talked about a path for a potential park. Yes, I know that he's talked to Mr. Zimnick and the Metro Parks to donate some acreage. Where's going to be the parking? Where's going to be the 50-foot buffer when all of a sudden there's a path there? None of that is certain. And I do have to respond. He made one direct remark about me, and that is not my recollection. With great respect to Mr. Summers, not my recollection of our conversation. So for the record, yes, I did speak to Mr. Summer about I think there's better uses, and that I had attempted in the past through brokers and through others to see if there were people who were interested in doing some of the uses. And if this council wants to consider that a conflict of interest on my part, you're certainly welcome to. But
He indicated to me that he valued the property at something that was about $825,000, or approximately twice the reserve price he put when he put it up for auction, that nobody was willing to pay because the property isn't worth that much because it has a lot of challenges, including wetlands. And that's a very expensive proposition. So I did indicate that there were numbers less than his 425, where I felt that there might be certain persons that could be interested. Can't guarantee it. No assurances to him or to you. And I told him that again tonight. I want to see the best for this community. I'd love to see a better development in there. I certainly will lend whatever good offices I have to it. And if possible, I might be even a potential possible investor, but I can't drive that train. So I wouldn't be the primary person developing it. But I do want to correct the record that that was what our conversation was. Thank you.
Third reading of ordinance 2020-35 is recommended by the Planning Commission on October 7, 2020. I'll start off. Do we have a motion to that effect? All right. Any discussion from council or the administration as to 2020-35? You mind? Thank you, Mr. Valerius.
I'll give you clarification of what that was. We basically wanted to add language to the zoning code that basically said the driveway shall be constructed within the boundary lines of the property it serves. That's fine.
Appreciate that. Any discussion as to, this is just a new business item, but I wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page. Any discussion?
One question.
Yes, go ahead.
Does that apply to both residential and commercial property? I mean, is that across the board?
This is for our residential district.
Okay.
Okay.
Just because that's moving forward, we can't go backwards on that, or is that?
Yeah, that's that'd be moved from.
Okay, thank you.
Gwen?
Yes. Sarah? Yes. Stanham? Yes. Luca?
Yes.
Brady?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we'll go to the reading of the ordinances, and I don't think you don't need to read the three tabled ordinances if you don't wish to. Oh, actually, no. 35 is untabled, so.
Okay. Third reading ordinance 2020-35. An ordinance amending chapter 1270 entitled District Regulations in sections 1270.01 through 1270.06 and chapter 1276 entitled Off-Street Parking and Loading, section 1276.02 entitled General Provisions and Requirements, and declaring an emergency.
Do we have a motion to adopt ordinance 2020-35 and declaring emergency? Okay, any further discussion regarding this matter? Gwen?
Yes. Stanham? Yes. Brady?
Yes.
Holmes?
Yes.
Stark? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Proceed.
Third reading ordinance 2020-37. An ordinance enacted pursuant to chapter 1266 of the codified ordinances of Vermillion, rezoning land in Vermillion, Ohio, and containing an area of approximately 8.837 acres from R3 Suburban Residence District to B3 Highway Commercial District land use classification as favorably recommended by the Vermillion Municipal Planning Commission. Authorizing the city engineer to amend the official zoning map of the city of Vermillion to conform herewith, as said map has been established by section 1268.02 codified ordinances of Vermillion upon the effective date hereof.
We have a motion to adopt ordinance 2020-37 and declaring an emergency.
No emergency and rezoning.
I apologize. We have a motion to adopt ordinance 2020-37. Any members wish to make a motion to adopt this ordinance? Very well, there's no motion to adopt the ordinance. So,
under your codified ordinances, since the planning commission recommended the rezoning, in order for this council to reject that recommendation, there must be a 2/3 vote.
Did not know that. A
Okay.
2/3 vote
So,
on a rejection.
Yes, to reject what the
All
planning
right.
commission.
So it will
So
take
moved.
5 of you to adopt this ordinance.
All right. That's your, okay, we'll go with the law director.
Already made the motion?
Yes.
Need a second. Emily, second.
Any further discussion? We've had a lot of information presented to council through letters and of course a public hearing. We've had an opportunity to discuss it, but certainly at this point, would anybody like to make any further comment? Yes, Councilman Holmes.
Just like to remind everybody that, no matter which way this goes, that, the final site plan approval will go before Vermillion Planning Commission. Again, this is a rezoning matter. Thank you.
Anybody else? And I would just like to reiterate my thanks to the community and to the presenters for very civil, professional information provided to council. It's a matter that's important to many, many people. The decisions we make affect people's livelihoods. It affects the property values and affects the reason they come to our city to live and work. And so we're very appreciative of it. The city of Vermillion, its citizens have a right to have these matters handled in a civil and lawful way. And I believe that's occurred. That's my own opinion. But I believe that's occurred. So with that, if nobody else has any further questions or comments, Gwen?
No.
Luca?
No.
Brady?
No.
Skinningham? No. Stark? No. Aaron?
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, proceed.
First reading ordinance 2020-39. An ordinance pursuant to section 1240.02 of the codified ordinances of Vermillion, granting a land use zoning variance to Road to Hope in the B3 Highway Commercial District located at 1863 Liberty Avenue, Vermillion, Ohio.
That matter will go to a second reading and also will be a subject of a public hearing November 16th at, as of now, 7:00 p.m. Oh, at 7 then? So listed as 7. So we'll say 7 o'clock. All right. And okay, so that'll go to a second reading. Proceed.
First reading ordinance 2020-40. An ordinance amending ordinance 2020-5 adopted March 2nd, 2020 to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the city of Vermillion, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020 and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend the rules with respect to ordinance 2020-40 and declaring emergency.
Luca? Brady?
Yes.
Skinningham? Yes. Stark? Yes. Holmes?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Do we have a motion to adopt ordinance 2020-40 and declaring an emergency? Any further discussion from that which was given by our finance director? Okay, Gwen?
Skinningham? Yes. Stark? Yes. Holmes?
Yes.
Luca?
Yes.
Brady?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, proceed.
First reading ordinance 2020-43. An ordinance establishing Fund 710 payroll clearance fund that becomes effective January 1, 2021.
That will go to a second reading. Proceed.
First reading ordinance 2020-44. An ordinance to amend ordinance 2019-5 adopted February 25th, 2019 pursuant to chapter 873 entitled Transient Accommodation, Rooming or Boarding Houses of the codified ordinances of the city of Vermillion and declaring an emergency.
That will go to a second reading. Proceed. Yes.
I'll try to go back to legislative on November 9th.
Thank you very much. Okay, proceed.
First reading ordinance 2020-45. An ordinance authorizing the creation of the position of paralegal/legal assistant to the Vermillion City Prosecutor and abolishing the position of secretary in that office and declaring an emergency.
That will go to a second reading, and I will ask you if we can put that on finance. for the 9th, please. Thank you. Proceed.
First reading ordinance 2020-46. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Vermillion to enter into an agreement with South Shore Dredge and Dock, Inc. of Lorraine, Ohio, to provide ice-breaking services on the Vermillion River for the period of January 1, 2021 through February 28, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
That will go to a second reading. Proceed.
First reading ordinance 2020-47. An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Vermillion, Ohio, to enter into a contract with Poland Implement of Elyria, Ohio, for the purchase of one John Deere 6120E cab tractor, one Alamo Machete 18 side mower, and one Alamo SH88 flail mower to be used in the Vermillion Street Department, and authorizing the finance director to make payment to said awardee in an amount not to exceed $135,397.14 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, do we have a motion to suspend the rules with respect to ordinance 2020-47 and declaring an emergency?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Do we have a motion to adopt ordinance 2020-47 and declaring an emergency? Okay, any discussion? It's a heck of a lot of money. I think you mentioned how much money it was. When I saw it written there, I thought, wow, that's a lot of money. So, all right. Councilman Holmes.
Yeah, that's off the state bid. So, I mean, state bid typically is the best deal in town.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're getting 10,000 for our trades as well.
Okay.
Which brings it down to this price.
Brady, did you have- Yeah, Councilman Brady, did you have something? Okay. Okay, sticker shock. Yeah, that's what I got. Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, Gwen?
Yes. Holmes?
Yes.
Luca?
Yes.
Brady?
Yes.
Stark? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, before we adjourn, I am just going to tell you right now, next week's meeting is going to be on Zoom. Ms. Fisher, will that be at 6 or 7?
6 o'clock on Zoom.
Thank you very much. November 9th, we are presently scheduled for city council meetings. My hope is to have them in person. That is my goal, but the numbers are astronomical in this state. And so at this time, I will tell you they will probably go to Zoom, but that announcement will be made next week. November 16th, we do have a public hearing, 7 o'clock by a regular city council meeting, and that will be at this point in time, will be made in person. And possibly, if you are interested in that subject matter, the proceedings will be much like tonight. So we appreciate everybody who has assisted us in the community, and thank you all, and have a good evening.
Are you recording back?
Please do not do that. Make sure Brian's packing so we walk around. Did you pack in your feet? You don't roll without it, do you? Good to see you, man. Good to see you. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.